Bill's going to challenge us to hold one principle sacred in every future design brief. Let's hear what the principle is and why it is key to fully enabling and energizing this pivot to the good life. Bill?
Hi, everybody. This is so cool. Look at all of us together. I remember when I gave my first speech in New York, I got all excited, bought a new suit, came out of the green room, there were 5 people there. Long time ago. But it was the head of Environmental Defense Fund, the head of NRDC, Meryl Streep, and Susan Sarandon. So I was happy. Look at us. So today I'm going to talk about this, apparently, and titles matter. So I decided, like Seamus Heaney in translating Beowulf, to skip the first chapter and go straight to another title, which is this. Less bads, more goods. We talk about having goods and services, but often we sell bads. And we ask our children to think about these things, and they wonder, why are we being bad? In the New York Times this weekend, there was an article about complaining that people were saying that a certain politician behaved like a 4-year-old, that this was an immense insult to 4-year-olds. So if we think about what it means to be a child and to wake up in the middle of the night, like I did in Japan as a baby, listening to my mother from Alabama singing American folk songs in Japanese, making up words about the honey wagons coming to collect our sewage, and the farmers with their night soil, and you're listening to your mother singing poop songs in Japanese, and you are in heaven. And I still am. I think of that all the time, and I think of cities and farms and countrysides as one thing. Emerson was asked in 1838 by Harvard to write an essay on nature. And the question was, what is natural? Is if human beings are natural, or the things we make part of nature? His answer was that nature is all those things, the unchangeable essences, the immutable things, things too big for humans to affect. His examples, the oceans, the mountains, the leaves, the air. So, how do we make the world better because we're here? Because these are mutable essences. They are changeable, and we've changed them. So if this is our intention, what is our intention? So for the celebration of the event being here, I decided to show one of my favorite commissions. Bill Ford gave me this commission in 1999 in public without telling me. And he said, we're going to redo the River Rouge at a press conference. This is it. Now, we could have said, let's reduce its footprint and be more efficient. The problem is that here in Dearborn, this is considered a color photograph. So we ended up building the world's largest green roof because this project was for the birds, and that is true. It also saved immense amounts of money, which made it very cost-effective and reduced CapEx magnificently over chemical treatment plants and miles of pipe by using the natural world to filter water like it always had. So if all we're going to do is be less bad, let's say what our goal is. Let's be explicit. If our goal is to be less bad, then we're saying we'd like a less unsafe, less unhealthy, less unjust world with less pollution, economically driven, less bad. But perhaps we could flip this and imagine we were more good. What would that look like? The message becomes positive, a delightfully diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, soil, water, and power, economically, equitably, ecologically, and elegantly enjoyed. That is our goal. That is why we are all in this room, it seems to me. In 1989, I won a competition for a daycare center in Frankfurt. I called it a negative entropy building. The idea was it would put order from chaos. So it would collect solar energy, it could grow food, shutters moved around to let light in and out, offer cooling, but it was to be operated by the children in the daycare center. Big wheels and things like that. The engineer said, you can't do this. I said, what do you mean? You can't have a building operated by children. Why not? And the teacher said, well, to the engineers, well, don't you understand our job? What is our biggest problem? Finding things for 4-year-olds to do. So what if they open a big crank and wake up the building in the morning and let the sun come in? And they say, well, what if it gets too hot? Well, then they're going to close the shade. Well, what if they don't close the shade? Well, you know, what do you think these kids are? They explore. They find out. They would know what to do. A building operated by children. Well, while all this arguing is going on, I'm looking at the kids, and they were eating the building. So I thought, well, I have to get an ecotoxicologist because I don't understand what that child's eating. And we need to look at our materials down to the parts per million, parts per billion for ecological and human health. And so that's what we did. And clearly, being less bad is not being good because you're being bad by definition, just less so. So wouldn't it be great if we could be both less bad and more good? And then the question is, as we look at what we consider bad, let's think about the meaning of this. For the science journal Nature, I wrote an article published during COP 2022 in Marrakesh on what I call the new language for carbon. And essentially what we're looking at here on the left is if we have carbon in the atmosphere above natural levels, we could call it a toxin. A material in the wrong place, wrong dose, wrong duration is a toxin. Water is highly toxic if you surround yourself with it for 6 minutes or jump out of an airplane and hit the ocean at terminal velocity. Big dose, small duration, toxic, boom. So the question becomes, if we release carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, are we creating a condition for the future that could be almost akin to putting lead in a river? It's a toxin. Let us stop. So we call this fugitive carbon. And it gets to the oceans through acidification, et cetera. But we can also look at durable carbon, which would be reused carbon, recycled carbon, because plastics are an astonishing asset for us to work with. If we recycle it, if we burn it, it gets fugitive to the atmosphere. If it enters the oceans, it is fugitive, durable carbon. And then we can celebrate carbon as a living thing and call that carbon positive behavior. These are the 25 award-winning packages in Flexible in 2012. This image was given to me by Waste Management, and with a note, not one of these is recyclable. So I'm now working with very large companies, and we're developing roadmaps for 2025, big consumer products companies, big retailers, to develop the packaging systems for 2025. I'm very excited about it. I'm very, very happy to be working on it, and I'm looking forward to getting everyone's help because we've got to do something about this, folks. My kids asked me this question. We've been tracking plastics in the ocean for the last 15 years. It is now expected by some people that we will have in the oceans, the weight of plastics by 2050 will be equal to that of fish by 2050. Is this our intention? Is this our plan? Because if not our plan, what is the plan? This is a 4-year-old girl visiting the mangroves of Tampa with her parents on Earth Day. These are mangroves. This is what they look like in Florida now. So, being less bad with a goal of 0, is that really that exciting? If our goal is nothing, because we're so bad, then you tell your kids, oh, it's so hard to be nothing with you, I have to feed and clothe you. That's pretty sad. And then if we tell people, oh, we're going to reduce our emissions or toxins or whatever by 20% by 2020, you're telling us what you're not going to do. This would be the equivalent of me running out and jumping in a taxi and saying, quick, I'm not going to the airport. I just told you what I'm not going to do. The people in this room do things. Let us talk about being less bad, of course, but let us talk about also being more good. And perhaps our search in design is for the 100% fabulous, while we reduce those things that we consider untoward or unwanted. So we call this the upcycle. Things get better as we go forward. And this is our process for cradle-to-cradle assessment for products. Inventory, assess, optimize. We inventory down to the parts per million. Imagine. We assess, and then we optimize, and then we submit it for certification. I'll show you this in a minute. So again, less bads, more goods. So in the search for the good, we've created 5 criteria, which we use in cradle-to-cradle assessment, but we're presenting them to the children like this, and I've been working on a project called Fashion for Good Initiative, and coming out of Amsterdam. It's a global program. We described it first in Copenhagen last week, and it's based on the 5 goods. What are they? They would be good materials, and they're first, because you have to have safe, healthy things for humans' ecosystems. Good economy would be second, because we want to circulate good things, not a good economy circulating bad things. See? Good energy, good water, and good lives, the theme of this conference itself. So as we go through this, we realize that good materials would be in open metabolisms operating for the benefit of the organisms and their reproduction. They would be safe, healthy for ecosystems and humans. We then would have a circular economy, a good economy, which would be circular if we have goods instead of bads. Sharing, and the sharing economy is filling emptiness, cars, rooms that can be let and used, and shared. But I know when I came to Davos this year to be there as part of the circular economy program that we're doing, the fact that you think about 8 people in the world have equivalent wealth of 3.5 billion. 6 of them are Americans. Imagine. That is not a shared economy. So when we look at energy, let's have clean and renewable energy. You can tell a child, to make this decision. Oh, clean is good, dirty is bad. Even the White House should be able to understand this. You don't need to be 4 years old to understand this. Might help, but clean water is good. Dirty water is bad. Really. And water that's not available to every child in the world is not good. And so a good life is safe, creative, and dignified. So what does it mean to be a living thing? Francis Crick pointed out, to be a living thing, you need growth, you need income, and you need an open metabolism of chemicals operating for the benefit of the organisms and their reproduction. So we're so excited that we've been able to put this in a certification program, give it to the public through the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute. Ellen MacArthur, for example, in the UK has taken our protocol and is using it in her program, so the Chinese now. And we're looking at materials that are designed to go back to nature as biological nutrients. We're looking at this, the carpet for Shaw, designed specifically to be safe and healthy, unlike many others, and designed to go back to cycles perpetually as products of service. We have steel case furniture, and I'm happy to note that the reason Mr. Ford can't be here is that he's just taken the former CEO of Steelcase and made him CEO of Ford. And Steelcase is 70% Cradle to Cradle certified. So this is good news from my side. Happy to hear this. When we look at, thank you. When we look at appliances and we see them as products of service, why were we thought of as communists 20 years ago when we proposed this? When really you want to wash clothes, you don't need to own all this stuff. What if the companies that make these things own those materials, sell you the service, and then they continuously develop assets and develop that? So this is exciting to me. We're designing what's next into what's now. And this is our human ability to prospect for the future and to connect. It makes us unlike any other species. This is solar collectors in the Middle East. This was sold at 2.4 cents a kilowatt hour. 800 megawatts, 2.4 cents a kilowatt. That's cheaper than burning gas. Game on. This is what's going on in California right now. We're studying how to use solar to regain the grasses, to regain the natural systems. This is a building concept we're working on with the building makes more energy it needs to operate and grows its own food at the same time that you're there while it purifies water. And finally, what we're working on in Amsterdam, coming out of Amsterdam, the Fashion for Good. We're collaborating, it's a co-creative community, and we have the first, and this I consider this historic, it only took me 20 years. This is the first Cradle to Cradle Gold certified organic t-shirt at $7 each. This is mass production. We're here with a t-shirt that has been assessed every single molecule. 100% of the molecules of this product have been assessed against 24 criteria for ecological and human health, and it's done at a market price. We do it with buildings. It's designed as material banks. And tonight, this is an announcement, L'Oreal has come out with a Cradle to Cradle certified shampoo and conditioner. And it's Cradle to Cradle Platinum. for material health. This is the cosmetics industry. We call this adults behaving with child supervision. IFF, the International Flavors and Fragrances, has announced Pura Vida, the first cradle-to-cradle certified fragrance. Game on. So we're changing the nature of design itself. And we're moving from a kind of timeful mindlessness, I'm in a hurry, I don't want to think about it, to a kind of timeless mindfulness. So let us fashion forever. Let us fashion endlessly with our children. Let us wage peace through commerce. Let us change the question of commerce, as this man did when he gave eyesight to 3 million people for free by going to mass production. That is astonishing. And he changed the question of business from how much can I get for how little I give, modern commerce, to how much can we give for all that we get. Instead of a world of limits and greed, a world of abundance and sharing. Goodness is a living thing. What does it mean to be in a good life? Oh, less bads, more goods. It's going to take us all together. It's going to take forever. But that's the point. Thank you very much.